way my life changed when Smoke on the Water came out and was a hit was that we toured so much.
He smashed guitars on stage. He fired bandmates without warning. He walked away from Deep Purple at their peak. For 5 decades, Ritchie Blackmore remained rock's most stubborn genius. Not the flashiest player, not the friendliest personality, but the one who refused to bend.
That was making some money, and we were good players, I thought, and I was happy to be in a band I was playing with some good musicians.
He brought Bach into heavy metal. He turned medieval music into a second career. He followed his vision even when fans called him crazy. Behind that scowling face lived a purist, a seeker of records that challenged everything. These 10 albums were not just favorites. They were blueprints, standards of artistic defiance. Here is what shaped the man who never apologized. 10. Blonde on Blonde. This was freedom in musical form. When Bob Dylan released Blonde on Blonde in 1966, he proved artists could own multiple worlds at once.
They'll stone you when you're walking on the floor.
Electric fury met acoustic poetry. Rock collided with folk. Dylan refused to choose sides, and Blackmore watched carefully. Years later, he confessed his deepest wish: "I would love to play with Bob Dylan. He is the only person I admire in the business." That statement revealed everything.
I'd love to play with Bob Dylan. I mean, it sounds kind of funny in a way, but he's the only person I admire in the business.
Dylan showed Blackmore that evolution meant risk, that changing direction was not betrayal, but survival. When Blackmore later shifted from blues to classical to Renaissance music, critics screamed, fans walked out. He didn't care. Dylan had taught him the essential lesson: real artists follow their instincts, not their audience. Blonde on Blonde was permission to explore, to contradict yourself, to grow even when growth meant loneliness. Blackmore carried that permission his entire career. 9. A Hard Road. This was blues with substance over flash. When John Mayall and the Bluesbreakers released A Hard Road in 1967, it featured Peter Green on guitar. The record dripped with feeling, not pyrotechnics. Blackmore discovered it and found his philosophy. Asked about virtuoso guitarists like Joe Satriani, Blackmore shocked fans with his answer: "I prefer a heart player. I prefer someone like a blues player with the kind of Jeff Healey. I think John Mayall is great too. Heart over technique, emotion over speed." That became Blackmore's compass. While others chased faster solos and flashier runs, he pursued depth.
Amazing, these people that go, what you need is a hit record.
A Hard Road proved that blues didn't need showing off. It needed honesty. 3 chords played with conviction meant more than 1,000 notes played without purpose. Mayall's band understood restraint. They served the song, not their egos. Blackmore absorbed that truth and never forgot it. 8. Shapes of Things era. This was guitar playing from another dimension. When Jeff Beck joined the Yardbirds in 1965, he rewrote what electric guitar could do. Feedback became melody. Distortion became art. Beck explored sounds that didn't exist yet, and Blackmore became obsessed.
Please don't destroy these lands. Don't make...
They first met around 1964 at a session where Jimmy Page was producing. Blackmore couldn't believe what he heard. "I couldn't believe how incredible he was, not only with his technique but his sound too. I've been a fan of his ever since." Beck remained Blackmore's favorite guitarist forever.
Child in Time, and there's a few other tracks on there. Highway Star, Smoke on the Water, wasn't it? No, that was later.
He could reach up into the stars and make magic with his playing. His choice of notes were always absolutely perfect. Shapes of Things, Heart Full of Soul, Over Under Sideways Down. These tracks showed Blackmore that guitar could be experimental and commercial simultaneously. Beck proved innovation didn't require sacrificing feeling. That became Blackmore's blueprint for Deep Purple and Rainbow. 7. Brandenburg Concertos. This was a structured meeting of passion. Johann Sebastian Bach composed in the 1700s, but his music taught Blackmore how to build solos that breathed. Baroque precision, mathematical beauty. emotional depth hidden inside complex patterns. Blackmore studied Bach obsessively and stole his secrets. He admitted using a Bachian chord progression behind the Highway Star solo, the cycle of fourths, arpeggiated triads, classical techniques smuggled into hard rock. Bach showed Blackmore that discipline created freedom, not confined it. Those rules could be tools instead of prisons.
Very musical, very bombastic, but
When critics later called Blackmore the father of neoclassical metal, they were acknowledging this fusion. He brought Bach to rock before anyone thought it possible. Blackmore took classical guitar lessons as a child and learned to use his little finger, something blues players ignored. That technical foundation let him translate Baroque complexity into electric fury. Bach was the skeleton inside every Blackmore solo. 6. Symphony Number 5. This was a drama carved into sound. Ludwig van Beethoven's Fifth Symphony opened with 4 notes that shook the world. Decades later, those same notes inspired rock's most famous riff. Blackmore confessed the debt directly. "I owe him a lot of money." That simple admission told the story. Smoke on the Water borrowed Beethoven's power. That instantly recognizable intro came from Symphony No. 5's opening punch. Beethoven taught Blackmore that simplicity could be devastating, that 4 notes played with conviction beat 100 notes played without purpose. Later, Rainbow covered Beethoven's Ninth Symphony on Difficult to Cure, arranging it for a rock band. Blackmore found Beethoven's directness irresistible. "I like direct, dramatic music," he explained.
which I thought was brilliant. Normally, singers don't write riffs.
No decoration, no apology, just pure force. Beethoven proved classical music could hit as hard as any amplifier. The composer's ability to build tension and release it explosively influenced how Blackmore structured solos. Every dramatic pause, every explosive crescendo in Highway Star or Burn carried Beethoven's DNA. That lesson defined Blackmore's entire approach to writing riffs. 5. The Prodigal Stranger. This was an unexpected choice that revealed everything. Most fans expected Blackmore to pick Procol Harum's famous debut or Shine on Brightly. Instead, he chose their 1991 comeback record, The Prodigal Stranger.
Babe, there was so much to say.
A polarizing album that confused critics, but Blackmore heard something others missed. He also loved their single Hamburg over the iconic A Whiter Shade of Pale. Procol Harum blended classical organ with rock energy. They were theatrical without being fake, serious without being pretentious. Their music carried the same ambitions Deep Purple chased. That combination of Hammond organ grandeur and guitar bite created a template. Blackmore recognized kindred spirits, artists who refused to play it safe, who mixed influences without asking permission. Procol Harum showed that rock could be intellectual and emotional simultaneously. That complexity didn't mean coldness. The Prodigal Stranger arrived after decades away, proving great bands could return on their own terms. Blackmore respected that stubborn independence, that refusal to chase trends or recreate past glories. Blackmore carried that balance through every album he made. 4. Truth. This blues exploded into something new. When Jeff Beck released Truth in 1968, he proved leaving the Yardbirds was the right move. Rod Stewart howled on vocals. Ron Wood held down bass. Beck's guitar carved through everything like lightning through darkness. Blackmore had already crowned Beck his favorite guitarist years earlier, and this album confirmed why. Every track pushed boundaries without losing soul. Shapes of Things from the Yardbirds showed what Beck could do. Truth showed what he would become. Beck's Bolero opened the record with orchestral ambition. Let Me Love You combined tenderness with power. The album was raw but sophisticated, heavy but musical. Beck never lost feeling while chasing innovation. That balance fascinated Blackmore endlessly. "I like Jeff. He's my favorite guitarist," Blackmore told International Musician in 1975. Truth demonstrated why. Beck played with emotion, not ego. His solos served songs instead of showing off. When Blackmore later praised Beck's perfect note choices, he was talking about this approach. Truth became a blueprint for hard rock albums that followed. It influenced the Jeff Beck Group's success and showed Blackmore that guitar heroes could lead bands, that instrumental prowess could drive entire records. Beck made it look effortless. 3. Elvis Presley. This was the spark that started everything. Elvis Presley, Buddy Holly, Duane Eddy, The Shadows, Hank Marvin. These names represented Blackmore's first musical awakening. He remembered the moment clearly, the excitement of rock and roll. Elvis Presley.
You're so lonely, they could die.
Now the bellhop's tears keep flowing.
Tommy Steele was a big idol of mine. The energy and the feeling was unlike anything I had heard before. At 11 years old, Blackmore listened to Radio Luxembourg on his transistor radio. Those early rock pioneers showed him that guitar could be a weapon, that music could be rebellion. Scotty Moore behind Elvis, Buddy Holly's hiccuping rhythms, The Shadows' clean, melodic approach. Each guitarist offered a different lesson. Before Bach, before blues, before classical training shaped his technique. Rock and roll gave Blackmore his foundation, the raw energy he would later refine but never lose. Radio Luxembourg brought American rebellion to British suburbs. Those crackling broadcasts changed everything for a skinny kid with a cheap guitar. Those early heroes proved guitar could change your life. 2. Rising. This was Blackmore finding his true voice. Released in 1976, Rising represented everything he wanted, Deep Purple to be, but couldn't achieve with 5 competing egos.
Beware of a place, a smile on a crowd.
Ronnie James Dio's voice soared like a prophet. Cozy Powell's drums thundered like war. Blackmore's guitar finally had room to breathe. Tarot Woman opened with mystical power. Stargazer built an epic 9-minute journey. A Light in the Black closed with furious energy. Rising blended medieval imagery with hard rock fury. The album featured the Munich Philharmonic Orchestra on Stargazer, proving classical elements belonged in heavy music. Blackmore had taken cello lessons from Hugh McDowell to understand composition better. That knowledge poured into every arrangement. The record sounded ancient and futuristic simultaneously. Critics called it pretentious. Fans called it genius. This album showed Blackmore he'd made the right choice leaving Purple. No more arguments about direction, no more compromise. Rising let him merge all his influences without apology. Bach's progressions, Beethoven's drama, medieval melodies, blues feeling. Everything came together perfectly. The album cover showed a rainbow rising from a hand grasping at light. That image captured Blackmore's journey, reaching for something pure, something untouchable. Rising proved he could lead his own vision to places Deep Purple never dared explore. 1. Vivaldi, The Four Seasons. This was the other classical master who owned Blackmore's soul. While Bach taught him structure, Antonio Vivaldi taught him storytelling. The Four Seasons burst with narrative power. Spring sang of renewal, summer scorched with heat, winter bit with cold precision. Each concerto painted pictures without words. Blackmore absorbed every note and understood that music could be cinema for the ears. Vivaldi composed during the Baroque period, the same era as Bach. But where Bach built mathematical perfection, Vivaldi wrote with theatrical flair. Those rapid violin passages, those dramatic tempo changes, the way one instrument could carry an entire emotional arc. Blackmore heard all of it and recognized his own instincts reflected back. He later said he studied the intense playing of Bach and Vivaldi and other classical people. The Four Seasons showed Blackmore how to build epic instrumental journeys, how to start quietly and explode into fury, how to let a single melodic line carry weight. When he composed Highway Star's solo or Stargazer's instrumental sections, Vivaldi's ghost hovered nearby. Those weren't just guitar solos, they were narratives, battles. Seasons change. Rainbows Rising and Difficult to Cure owed debts to Vivaldi's approach. Blackmore even brought in full orchestras, just like the Italian master used centuries before. Vivaldi proved that complexity and emotion weren't enemies, that technical brilliance could serve beauty instead of ego. For Blackmore, that balance became everything. Ritchie Blackmore never played it safe because these albums taught him safety was death. He chased the untouchable his entire life, not to reach it, but to honor it. Subscribe for more stories from artists who refuse to bend. Keep searching, keep evolving,